Coming up on Stowe Nation.
In terms of the Stowe Nation community, the Storyteller community, Jason's Canyon Adventure Van team, like sitting and hanging out with them for 3 days last week, like it was an eye opening of how much fun and what you guys all get doing. So I realized that I have luckily fallen into a whole other fringe, and I don't take fringe as a negative thing. That's a positive thing, right? That is dedicated and they care. And whereas I was, only looking at like the product, like I'm just like, holy cow, like there's whatever has been created around this storyteller thing is amazing, and I get to try to like dab my foot into it. So this is pretty cool.
Welcome to another episode of Stowe Nation, a production of Park Media. Before I introduce today's guest, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share, and leave a 5-star review. And if you find this podcast useful in any way and want to pay us the ultimate compliment, head on over to our Patreon page where you can subscribe to be a classic, stealth, or beast mode subscriber. Welcome back to another episode of Stowe Nation. On this episode, you get to meet Peter Stetina. If you don't know who Peter is, he's a professional bicyclist and has competed in some of the world's most prestigious competitions, to include the Tour de France. And now he's a brand new owner of a 2022 Classic Mode. Peter goes into why he wanted to get a van, how he found out about the Storyteller, and what other vans he was looking at. He also talks about his sick mod that he got done for his bikes at Canyon Adventure Vans, and his first impressions of not only the van, but the community as well. On a personal side, he also talks about his career and what he's working on now and hopes to achieve. He even answers some of the listeners' questions. I had a ton of fun talking with Peter and listening to his story. So with that, please sit back, relax, and welcome Peter Stetina to the Stowe Nation family. All right, Pete, welcome to Stowe Nation. Thanks for coming on today.
This is cool. I've never done like a direct van life style podcast. It's all been bikes. So let's talk about vans.
Yeah, so I know, this is crazy. This is like the one podcast you probably won't talk a lot about your biking career. So, but I'm kind of sad to know that you've been on other podcasts. Like I'm not your first podcast.
Oh yeah, the cycling community is, as I start to fall into this van community, it's like you guys have your whole community and these meetups and all this stuff, and the bike world is just like that. I mean, it's a professional sport. So I have done quite a few interviews during my career. I've been a pro for quite a while, so
I'm just joking.
right.
But
I'll try not to.
Well,
I have my talking points, and I did my research on you, and I know like the angles you might try and take.
Okay. Well, I got some bombshells still to drop on you, so
Right.
No, it's all good. So, you just got your van, right? Maybe.
Yes.
What?
Last
Yeah.
week.
Okay. So, yeah, last week. So, I guess let's just start from the beginning. First of all, why did you want a van?
Yeah. So, for my very, very quick background is I come from the World Tour, which is like the major leagues of professional cycling, like Tour de France type stuff. And that whole career is flights, hotels, the team flies you in, pick you up, shuttle you to the race hotel, and you have the big team buses that go like day to day that are like a tour bus, like a rock band bus. And as I transitioned into off-road gravel racing, which is it's the fastest growing discipline of the entire sport of cycling, and it's US based. It's a lot more kind of grassroots feeling, and I was doing these races year round, but I was just going to fly and rent a car and do the hotel thing because that's all I knew. And honestly, I had always kind of passed off the whole van thing. I was like, yeah, that's not for me. It's just driving everywhere. And then, COVID 2020 hit and flights were locked down. And in an effort to still create content for my sponsors, such as video projects and adventures, and also I think for my general headspace, I I started looking more, and I was like, these things are kind of cool. Like, and I went down the rabbit hole, and I bought a used Sprinter 3500 that was built out as a DIY build, but I love that thing. But it wasn't like a full on like Storyteller RV style build. It was, I would call it like fancy car camping. Like we had a water pump in it. I had 2 solar panels hooked up to a Yeti Goal Zero battery pack, lighting, but it was good. And I did all these adventures all through COVID, and I started racing with it. Drove the thing hard, and I think I put on like 30,000 miles in 1 year.
Wow.
And so that was my hook. And I really like playing with them because it's kind of almost like training in professional sport, where it's like, you have every little square inch to work with, and like you try to customize it to your lifestyle, and just opening up a thing like here or there makes such a big difference. So that was how I got hooked into van life. Yeah.
So what made you switch from that 3500 to Storyteller?
Well, that guy was getting pretty old. It was 220,000 miles, even though it's diesel, it'll go on. And since then I've actually sold it to another person within the community. So I think I'll still see it at some events next year, which is great. Lives on.
Nice.
But I had a few check engine light issues that have since been fixed, but it kind of created an extra stress on my season last year. I was like, I need to get to the races on time. I can't deal with this. And then in addition to that, the van life community and the build companies have started to see gravel specifically, but cycling as an important marketing vehicle. A lot of these races are, so I'm racing off-road now, predominantly on gravel roads, off-road mountain bike stuff all through the US. And a lot of these races are highlighted by a community and a festival around them. And so, it's not uncommon. You rock up to a bike race now, and, I'd say a lot of people are in hotels, but half the people are all in a parking lot with vans. It's like our own little mini van expo. And then, there was like one race last year where you literally race point to point through the Cascade mountain range around Bend, basically racing campsite to campsite. And if you have a support personnel, you could opt for your own van rig instead of a tent. So my mechanic was driving my van point to point, and you set up and you raced hard to the next site, and then you're hanging out and just shooting the shit all afternoon, and really connecting with the community. This new gravel thing is very community oriented, and it's about being personable and having this adventure together beyond just a race result. And so I just was like, the van thing makes sense. Like, I first of all would love to upgrade my vehicle, and second of all, like, a sponsorship really makes sense. Because like, I mean, the imagery that comes out of it and the lifestyle around it was mind boggling. So I started talking to some companies, because some of these companies, Storyteller included, were actually demoing at certain bike races. So they were in the expo showing off their rigs, and people were perusing them. And I started talking to a few companies, and I knew Storyteller liked bikes. I had met Thor in the past. And that was kind of a Hail Mary, though. I was like, oh, these things are way too nice. They're not going to ever be interested. And Thor kind of all of a sudden was like, yeah, man, let's jam. So they're actually, we found a way to make sense for me to actually get in my own van. It's not a rental. I want to fully, I believe in it. Like, it's not just like a little, I'm peddling a product. Like, I am fully, I'm a full believer, and I fully prescribe to the Storyteller style and the van lifestyle. So it's a very organic.
To the cult.
I know, it's a very organic fit. and it just made sense. So we found a way to make it work, and now I'm the proud new owner of a Storyteller van, and I will drive to all these events and be able to just, park at the campsite or the race and really be comfortable. And you need so much equipment now too. That's another reason that the van thing makes sense, is because, and like, once we start talking about, I think the bike specific build out that you saw, it's just, you have so much gear. I mean, you got to rock up with multiple bikes, multiple wheel sets, enough parts to completely change out a whole new bike. So to fly with that is pretty impractical.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you didn't pick up your Storyteller from an actual dealer. You picked it up from Storyteller directly?
I picked it up from CA Vans. But no, Storyteller drove it out to
Oh, okay.
California, and we met there. So my first touch and impression of the van was at Jason's shop in SoCal there.
Oh, wow. So did he show you how to use it and everything?
Yeah, Thor gave me the walkthrough,
Okay.
the whole 2 hour. This is how this, and we hung out for a few days together, just as
Nice.
the bike specific upgrades got built. We hung out for I think 72 hours and just drinking beers at night, and they were super um, easy going with letting me ask every stupid question possible. And telling me too about kind of what you guys all have going on with the meetups and how they roll and what they feel like. And I think I want to do a few next year.
Yeah, you definitely should. I mean, it'd be a shame if you didn't, but I know you have a busy schedule, so if you can
Mm.
squeeze it in, I'm sure people would love to meet you and check out your rig, because what Jason built you looked pretty sweet. Do you mind like kind of describing exactly, because it's custom, because I've
Mm-hmm.
never seen it before, and
Yeah,
so for those that have their bikes and stuff, do you mind just kind of elaborating on what Jason built you and how it works and everything?
totally. So I should preface this with, um, my bikes are expensive enough. A racing bike is expensive enough that you don't want to just throw it on the back and lock it up. Especially if you're boondocking places and you're at a race and then you want to go into a restaurant or whatever. So for me, the bike's got to go in the garage space. And a lot of these modern build companies, as I started talking to a few companies this year, you realize that they haven't really considered uh, bikes all the time. I mean, if you have a mountain bike, you can usually lower the seat pretty easily with like they have what they call dropper posts where the seat slams down. However, for anyone over, 5'8" or something, you start to get in trouble because I guess a modular, you know, off the factory bed height is only like 34, 36 inches. And so if you want to wheel your bike in underneath and bolt it down to the L track, um, you're going to slam your seat into the bed and it won't fit. So Storyteller is actually the only company I found where I wouldn't actually really have to lift the bed. You can just roll your bike in and bolt it down. So even if the tray thing with Jason didn't come together, like Storyteller is the only van I knew that like could allow me to do my job without like getting this brand new fancy van and then having to gut the whole thing. Right. um,
Yeah.
so beyond that, so then we started talking though, and like Thor said Jason does a lot of stuff for him. They have a good relationship, and I started perusing Jason's website, and I was like, look, like what I really need is to get 3 bikes and all my gear in there to be able to because
Mm.
I'm on the road for up to 6 weeks at a time between events, going from the Rocky Mountains to the, Moab Desert and all of that. Multiple bikes, multiple fix it things. And I saw that the tray that Jason had just for one bike, which is on his website. However, it was kind of like, all right, like Jason, I got to get 3. Like, how are we going to do this? And so it was very custom. And then like I traveled down with like what I would travel to with a race. So all 3 bikes, multiple sets of wheels, my toolbox, my bike pump, just like random knickknacks. And there was basically like throw it in Jason's lap and be like, make it fit. um, and what he came up with was because the tray adds a little height. And honestly, I'm never going to use the Murphy bed. Like I'm either like using that garage and hauling stuff, or I'm laying in bed. So we made the bed a permanent fixture, but he raised it 3 inches to account for the bike tray to slide in and out. And the benefit of
Mm.
a bike tray is you can cluster the bikes tighter together, because you don't have to like wiggle them out from underneath. You can basically unbolt them and lift them up out of the tray, because the tray holds like 200 and something pounds. It slides out all the way. Um, so yeah, he got this nice tray built that's the entire bottom of the bed. We have 3 bikes perfectly spaced: a gravel bike, a mountain bike, and a road bike. Um, we got a bunch of packs to like fit underneath the front wheel. Like all my fix it tools. It's super clean. And the nice thing actually about raising the bed 3 inches, it looks clean. It's looks OEM. Honestly, it's like the same metal that Storyteller uses. We actually gained like a bunch of like little like secret pocket space under both where your feet and your head would go. So there's like kind of
Yeah.
like a 3 inch holder down there.
How did he raise the bed?
He Oh man, I'm not an engineer. It's basically it's a 3 inch piece of the high end aluminum or whatever that the bed frame is made of, and like
Oh,
a
okay,
lot of the
okay.
fixtures. So he basically put that along like the edges of uh, where your water wall is and your battery wall is.
Mm-hmm.
And then he basically bracketed them together and created basically a bed frame out of that same high end, super strong black material.
Nice. Yeah, Jason's always so creative and intuitive. Like it's
Hmm.
pretty insane, like what goes in his brain. So,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah.
And we found out actually by raising 3 inches, like basically my mattress is right at the rear window, so we're not covering the window. And lengthwise, going up 3 inches, we only lost like half an inch. So I mean, I'm 5'11" and I can still fully lay flat, which
Oh,
is
nice.
that's clutch. Yeah,
Yeah. So, did you get the new 2022 or did you get a
I did.
21?
It's a
The
22.
2022?
Yeah,
Okay.
so
So, did
it
you take out the cabins then, or the cabinets above the where you're gonna lay your head, or did you leave those in?
it remains to be seen. Right now they're in. I might take out just the head one because I realize like it's kind of tight in there. But I have so much stuff. Like, I mean, because I have like 2 wardrobes. I have casual clothes plus bike clothes and
Mm,
all the other stuff. So I need to do a few more trips before I fully, you know, flush out where everything. As soon as you like do like a proper like 10-day trip, you're like, okay, I need to do that. I need to add that, all that stuff.
yeah.
I'm in that process right now, like bike lube holders, like right next to the rear door, and all that, the little knickknacks. Yeah.
Yeah. So, you went up north in Cali this past weekend for your first trip in the van, right?
Yeah. I unfortunately I didn't get a sleep in it. It was a day haul to another function. But I got to drive it
Okay.
real hard across wind and chain control and everything. Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay. So, I guess as of right now, I know you haven't had it very long, but what is some of your favorite features of the van so far?
Um, well, the 4-wheel drive obviously is insane, just because living in Northern California, and part time in Tahoe, chain control is a very real thing, and uh, stopping in a blizzard to put chains on sucks so bad. So just being able to like click that button and get rolling, that was huge. So that's and also doing some like off-road adventures. Some of these races, my mechanic will basically be driving this thing to like the aid stations that are like 100 miles out in like the Flint Hills of Kansas, across like shale rock, the Flintstones.
Mm-hmm.
And so the 4-wheel drive is clutch. Um, and then beyond that, inside, the whole like honestly, just the temperature control and the shower is really helpful, because you finish a 6-hour race and you're grimy and dirty, and just being able to like clean up and relax and have a beer as you're waiting for the award ceremony or whatever is so huge. So that's the biggest thing, and just always having it kind of warm in there. It's just comfortable. I mean, for a professional athlete, if you're able to relax and be a little bit more comfortable, then the performance follows, because my job is my body, I guess.
Mm-hmm. No,
So
that makes complete sense. Did you look at the Winnebago Revel at all?
I did. They were actually expoing. They I think they see something in cycling. Any other cyclists listening, go hit them up. let's get more van sponsors in bike racing. They It doesn't quite fit. The seat is not as high. There's just it was. I saw them and we kind of looked around. And I know this is like a storyteller podcast, but we were at the expo at a big event, one of the world's biggest off-road cycling expo called Sea Otter Classic in Monterey, California.
Wow.
It's in April this coming year. Thousands and thousands, like 50, 100,000 people or something silly.
Holy cow.
And people are milling about and demoing mountain bikes and helmets and all this stuff. And I rocked up to Winnebago and had a look, and the Revel was like, whoa, that's pretty and it's flashy. And then we kind of looked at the inside, and it was like, I don't know how I can utilize this to race a bike without changing everything, such as the bed height, a few other things. It was going to be hard to fit the bikes underneath as many as I needed, in like the way that they had like some bump outs and stuff, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I actually remember thinking like their Echo platform, which is like this transit all-wheel drive base, but like almost like an RV back. It's kind of like I don't know, like a Minotaur of a van. It's like a half and a half.
Yeah.
That would have made more sense should I have been talking to Winnebago, actually. So. But the Storyteller was just the cleanest, and that was again, like that was like my what's the term? It is, you're talking to me at 8:30, which was my decision, but
no, it's all good.
It was like my gold standard, right? And that was like my shoot for the dream, like, oh, if Storyteller could happen, which it did. So
yay.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things, and you may not be able to answer this question very well, but just because you haven't had it long enough, but is there anything, excuse me, I can't talk either. Is there anything that has kind of popped out at you and be like, this is interesting. Like maybe I could, like, I guess I don't want you to like bash Storyteller or anything, but is there anything that you could see that you were like, this doesn't really work out for me? Because like, for instance, with the Groove Lounge, a lot of people with the handles, they bump their knees or shins or something against the levers. And so, stuff like little nuanced stuff like that. Have you noticed anything where you're like, this kind of could be improved?
Trying to think. Well, first of all, another big thing is the Groove Lounge. So, sometimes if there's like a team there, like my Canyon bike sponsor will have like a whole like crew of people at the event, and they're in hotels or whatever. So my mechanic might shack up with them, but my mechanic is a guy named Big Tall Wayne. He's 6'6". He does not fit in beds. Wow. We just tested it, and I should probably put that up on the social medias, but that Groove Lounge, Wayne can sleep in that Groove Lounge if we're in the desert somewhere, and he doesn't have to pitch a tent outside and sleep in the cold while I'm in my nice van. So the Groove Lounge, especially if you swivel that captain's seat around, it's like over 7 feet or something. And I'm just going to get like a nice little like mattress topper or something and make him comfy so he can wrench on my bikes happily and my shit won't break down.
You should talk to Jason because he makes a foam mattress for the Groove Lounge for the bed
saw
thing.
that.
And I'm sure he can make it where it reaches, the entire length of the seat and the top of the the Groove Lounge.
That's a
I'm
good
sure you
point.
can do something custom like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's the fun, and that's also the problem of these whole things is there's always another project, right? And I love it, and you hate it.
yeah,
It's never done.
yeah, I know.
um,
And that's
sorry.
what I was about to ask you is like, what other mods are you thinking about getting?
Um, for now, I really need to focus on like having everything dialed for like efficient adventure, right? Like, so I need to make sure I get like some sort of netting or cup holder thing bolted into the door so it fits just beneath my bike's handlebars and doesn't smash into them. But like, if you're opening the doors, boom, like that's where I want like a bottle of lube, a tire pressure checker, like a bike wash, like soapy thing or whatever. So I don't have to like go rummaging around. So for me, it's going to be about maximizing efficiency of where everything lies, which just it
Mm,
takes a couple trips. We
mm-hmm,
also had Jason put in the overhead shelf above the driver, so you can throw more clothes and stuff up there. Um,
mm-hmm.
all that kind of stuff is really going to be um, my first step. And I'm reading about like the whole water. I got to figure out how to do like the siphon stuff and all that. So I'm starting to read into like the forums on Storyteller already, and the nuances of it. But I definitely don't think I'm. It's still a new enough toy that I don't have anything to gripe about. If I will, I mean, just from where I come from in a DIY build, like it seems like every little thing has been thought of. Um,
Yeah.
and I even watched that YouTube video from the couple in Colorado on the new 2022, and it seems like they've already addressed some cool things like where the temperature sensor is closer to your bed and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe my next upgrade would be a like a completely solid mattress instead of because I don't need the Murphy bed
Mm-hmm.
anymore. So
Yeah.
little things like that. Oh, and we got a sick wrap coming with the sponsors and stuff, so people will know
Oh,
like
nice.
this is Pete's Storyteller rocking up to the event. Like the show is in town,
Hell yeah! Get the party started. Let's do
Yeah,
this.
yeah. I'll send you some photos of that when I think it's going to happen early January. So yeah,
Nice. That's awesome. I can't wait to see it.
yeah,
Getting all pimped out.
exactly.
Did you get I forgot to ask, did you get the classic stealth or beast mode?
It is a
Which one did you
classic.
get?
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
So are you thinking about doing like suspension stuff and adding lights and like a bunch of other stuff that, people usually do?
Um, maybe eventually. Again, like this thing is already so good. Like I really want to just enjoy having something that's as nice as a Storyteller in the first place before I feel like I need to go ahead and change it all. Right now,
Mhm.
it's going to do my job amazingly. Um, you know, there's always projects. I mean, this is a long term investment for me and a nice partnership with Storyteller. So like I honestly think these things are dialed and ready to go, and you don't want to like get it and just change everything. That said, you always want to personalize it because everyone's lifestyle is different. If I was going to change anything soon, again, it would just be living efficiency, but also, I come from bike racing world, right? So it's like I would start looking at the wheels, the stocks, or the stock wheels and the tires, right? Like you can always gain better gas mileage, more efficiency with a better rim build and a different tire profile or something like that, right? So that's where I would go first, probably.
Okay. Do you mind if I give just a little bit of advice on that?
Yeah, please.
Since you're traveling all over the US, I think upgrading your suspension, even though what comes with the stock is pretty decent, but
Mm-hmm.
you kind of mentioned it earlier with the high winds and getting thrown all over the place. Suspension will definitely help with that one. So the two main ones are Van Compass. Most people get the 4.3 and
Mm.
then, or the Agile Rip Kit. So
Mm.
the Agile is actually down in just outside of San Diego. So it
Oh, no
shouldn't be
way.
too far for you. Yeah. And then Owl Vans, I know, does up in the Bay Area, can
Okay.
do the Van Compass for you too. But I think in regards just to safety purposes, like traveling as much, I think
Mm-hmm.
you'd really benefit from upgrading the suspension. And that's usually like what most people like their first upgrade is.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that you don't know what you're missing until you get upgraded, if that makes sense.
Wow.
But
Um,
yeah.
I 100% will take that to heart. I think, my old van was 220,000 miles, so she was a bit of a boat. This like right now, this suspension is tight and fresh. I will definitely think that will probably be a future thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like your stance and attitude in regards to like, well, let me just test it out and figure out what I need and
Hmm.
kind of go from there, instead of like some people just jump in and they want everything all at once, and then they find out they dropped all this money and on stuff that they kind
Yeah.
of really didn't need. So, but
Well,
it's addicting.
it
It's very
is.
addicting.
It is. But at the same time, it's like, the storytellers are, they're an expensive van for a reason. And it's just like, it's out of the factory. This thing is cherry. Like, that's the whole point of it. So, I want to, I feel like I don't need to go down those rabbit holes. And if I want to spend money, I just want to be efficient in terms of my lifestyle. And maybe that is a driving performance upgrade, because those crosswinds in Kansas, like, oof.
Yeah,
Um,
they're awful.
yeah, yeah. That was the nice thing about my old dually. My 3500 was a dually, and there was a lot more stability. It was lighter though. This uh, the gas mileage is a lot lower on there's so much weight with so much electronics and everything inside this. So uh, hopefully that weight actually helps in the winds. But you could probably tell me about that. Is it still hard?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, is it what?
Is it still like kind of brutal in the crosswinds, or does the weight actually help kind of batten that thing down?
Um, in the crosswinds, there's nothing that really helps you, to be honest,
Yeah.
except for suspension.
Yeah.
And then, because well, I'm full time, so I'm
Hmm.
probably packing over 10,000 pounds
Oof.
on those four tires, and so
Yep.
I think it's a little bit more brutal for me because I remember because I picked my van up over in Tucson, Arizona, and I drove it back to Austin, and so if
Hmm.
you drive from Tucson to Austin, obviously there's going to be horrible crosswinds, especially by the El Paso corridor. And
Hmm.
I remember just like getting almost thrown off the road by semis. It was pretty
Oh my
crazy, and that
gosh.
was a stock van.
Yeah.
So, but as soon as I put that suspension on, because I have that agile rip, I was just like, it's literally night and day.
Right.
So, but yeah, I mean, as far as like trying to find something that would help you with the stock suspension, um, I would say maybe just drive slower.
That ain't happening. I already got the pedal box
Yeah.
in there and got a bit of a lead foot
Snap.
coming from racing. I got a bit of a lead foot.
Yeah. I'm the
But
same way. When I'm in caravans, people are like, oh man, Young Wa's in the lead. Everyone's go
hell
pedal to the metal.
yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah.
we- yeah. No, I think again, this thing is it's so dialed already. It's just I mean, you got the Mercedes 4x4. Like it's the best. It's the best chassis of them all to start with. So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, I agree.
no, I mean, yeah,
Well, do you mind if we switch gears, all pun intended, and talk a little bit about your career?
sure, let's do it.
Okay, cool. So you are obviously are a professional cyclist. So you
Mm.
stated earlier that you were in the big leagues and stuff. But I'm just kind of curious, like, how did all that start? Was cycling always a passion of yours? And what was that big breakthrough that got you into the professional world?
Um, I was really a product of the classic development pipeline. I was a junior racer during the Lance Armstrong era when Tour de France was just in everyone's face. And my dad was a racer back in the late 70s and early 80s. So he never pushed me into it, but it was easy to find my way into the sport. Growing up in Boulder, Colorado, outdoor sport mecca. And yeah, so once I kind of found racing and there was like a healthy junior racing league, you start doing like a couple races and, I started like winning a little bit of prize money. Like even as a 16-year-old, like you win
Nice.
$30 in a sprint and you're like, whoa, I can make money doing this, And so it just kind of progressed from there. You get picked up by USA Cycling. They send you over to Europe where, for, I'm guessing, not a lot of cycling aficionados per se in your audience. In Europe, pro cycling is like the NBA or whatever, right?
Mm.
Like there's soccer, and then it's like cycling is like just beneath
Mm.
it. So if you want to like make it, you got to go to Europe, and that's where the Tour de France is. And what they have is called the World Tour, which is 18 of the world's best teams are in that upper league. So the World Tour is pretty much like majors in baseball, and then you have pro continental and continental teams, which is kind of like your AAA or AA kind of thing.
Right.
So I just kind of kept getting noticed and picking up by better things, and USA Cycling takes you, and there's talent scouts and agents and all that stuff. And eventually you turn pro, early 20s. So I
Wow.
spent a decade there doing some of the world's biggest races, such as the Tour de France and some world championships and stuff. Had a really nice career, had a couple really bad crashes as well, though.
Ooh.
And I had to have like my whole like lower leg rebuilt. And then at the end of 2019 or during 2019, there's this whole thing happening in the US called gravel racing, which everyone was like, no one knew what it was. Basically taking road style bikes off road. And it's kind of born of like people are trying to get away from traffic and cars for a safety aspect. More people than ever, especially during the pandemic, like picked up a bike because they couldn't go to gyms. And if you think about your entry to cycling, right? There's road cycling, which is going to be kind of dangerous. Urban cities, traffic. There's mountain biking, which as you and I talked about right before you started recording, like you need some skills if you're going to go mountain
Yeah.
biking. Like single track is scary. And gravel is kind of this hybrid where it's like, it's not quite technical. Like it's nice gravel roads. And there is some chunky stuff, but you're also like getting out there into nature and a proper adventure. It's highlighted by ultra distance, 100, 200-mile races.
Whoa.
And it's the fastest growing discipline of the entire sport. I mean, there's thousands of people trying to enter these races in a lottery system because they don't have enough spots.
Wow.
So I did a few of these like on the side, kind of like an alternative program in 2019 while still doing my full world tour calendar. And the metrics around it, like the social media, the interview requests, everything, the clicks on the bike company I was racing for at the time was just staggering. Like there was like Tour de France and then like Pete's silly gravel stuff. And then like all the other races in the world. and so I decided in 2019, I was like, wait, I can have fun. I can live stateside. I can be, a dirty camp bum or whatever and like race a bike full time. And I think I can make a living of it. So I kind of jumped ship, which a lot of people, it caused a bit of a stir in like the cycling media world. Just because, like you're always told like that Tour de France, like that world is like kind of like the holy grail. So to consciously step away from that, there was, it caused a reaction in the community, generally positive. Just, kind of a story of following your passion. And so now I'm doing these gravel races full time. I'm a kind of a lone wolf. We call it a privateer model where I don't have a manager anymore or a team logistics person or a PR person. I do it all myself. I do the negotiations, the budget, the race entries, everything. So it's definitely like a full-time job beyond just like massive training bike hours.
Right. So you're not doing the big league Tour de France stuff anymore at all. Like
no,
what you're doing now is 100%, like the privateering is 100% of all your efforts and time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a full schedule here in the U.S. I race from February through October, and these races are getting the Tour de France is still the biggest race in the world. It always will be. It's hard to miss out on that, but also it's a different sport. That's road cycling, and this is off-road racing. So a little bit of mountain bike stuff, mostly this gravel stuff. And it's competitive. It's you're able to make a career and have fun. And again, it's I love my time in the world tour, but this is I'm really having fun right now because you can be, instead of a bike racer that happens to be a human, which is like what pro sport is, right? Like every gram of body fat and like watching everything super strictly. Gravel is about the community and doing this massive adventure together. And we're all completing this thing. You finish no matter what, unless you break down horribly. But and then there's the race, right? And it's like it's cool to win, but it's applauded and looked on to hang out around camp afterwards and have a beer with everyone at the finish. So it's a more fun and rewarding lifestyle at the moment for me.
Nice. Well, I'm glad
Yeah.
you're having fun.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So we talked a little bit before we started recording, and I don't know anything about bikes.
Mm-hmm.
So just for clarification, so with the gravel biking, do you take an actual road bike and you just ride it on gravel, or do you have like a hybrid bike, or
it is now a hybrid,
or is it a mountain bike?
Oh, it is now a hybrid. Every course is different, right? Because sometimes it trends more towards mountain biking and chunky, narrow trail, and sometimes it's like we call it like Gucci gravel, where it's just pristine like dirt highway, and then you could have a road bike. However, most of it, there's now dedicated bikes called gravel bikes that look like a road bike. However, it's a little bit wider stanchions. Your tires are kind of somewhere in the middle. They're like kind of road narrow, but they have like some tread on them to hook up in the loose stuff. So it's, as the discipline is booming, of course, all the industry falls in behind it.
Right.
To make these bikes faster.
Yeah, that's really cool. So since you're just starting this up, like what are your primary goals of the privateering, and like where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Oh, that is a loaded question.
That's all I ask.
I mean, I really, goal number one is, like, I love bikes, racing bikes, riding bikes. Like that's my life. So I just want to get paid to do bikes, whatever that is. Whether that's winning races, being writing, articles about it, or video projects, or ambassador, or whatever it is. Like, if I can get paid to do bikes, I'm a happy camper. If I can do rad adventures in my van in Moab, which I get to do all the time now because I make my own schedule, then I'm a happy camper. So first of all, I think just by following my passion, opportunities open up. I was, one of the early adopters of this thing. So right now I kind of have a nice little position within the community, right? That I can kind of bank off of. And I'm doing quite well in the races at the moment. So I think, immediately I'd love to it's such a new thing. Like, I started this in early 2020, right? End of 2019, right before the pandemic. So I pretty much didn't get to do my first gravel year, right? Everything was shut down.
Right.
So last year, or this year, I guess, I'm already in 22 in my head, right? Because the season's coming up.
Nice.
I guess I've only had like one pro gravel year, right? And so I just want to, I want to keep doing this for a minute and enjoy it. But it's always about just kind of having your radar up and seeing how things are moving and shifting, and continuing to position yourself in the right way to make an impact, and inspire that way through the bike. So.
Yeah. So basically, if I understand you correctly, you're just starting out, so it's hard to have those long-term goals, and you just want to have fun. But at the same time, like, in order to have fun, you have to be flexible, and you have to see what's going on. And you mentioned it multiple times that you really want to build a community, and it's more about like the actual community versus like the competitive, like, oh, that's team A, we don't like them kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean,
so I totally get it.
And that's the point, is like, I mean, okay, if you want to follow what I'm doing, right? It's for your betterment, right? Whether that's, how is he trying to build out a van for more efficient bike races because that's his point, or I want to complete this 200-mile race. Like, I'm going to look at what Pete is trying to do so I can give myself the best chance of success. Like, I want to use what I'm able to do and my background as, doing the biggest stuff in the sport to help others achieve that goal, because that's the only way it's relatable. Otherwise, like, that's something I got tired with in the world tour, was just like, it's such an alien existence to normal human life. I mean, it's just, you leave family for months at a time to go sit on a mountaintop to gain extra red blood cells sitting at altitude, missing graduations and weddings and all that stuff, right? Like, which is fine. Like, it's all in the pursuit of like the result, but like, does it really matter that much in the end? And I right now, I kind of argue that like being proficient and fast on a bike helps for, showing that you're, good at your job, that you're, proficient, but it's all the other things. It has to come back full circle. So did I even answer your question, or did I just go down a rabbit hole?
You went down, you did both, and it was awesome. So I appreciate it.
Okay.
So I have one last loaded question for you.
Okay.
So out of your entire time, even as a novice bicyclist, up until like right now at this moment in time, what is the biggest life lesson that you've learned?
Oof. Well, this will be blatant after our whole conversation, but one motto I live by is a happy racer is a fast racer. And I learned that probably a decade ago, but my wife has a full-time career here. She would not go to Europe and sit in Europe while I was on tour, for example. So I would always come home, because I found if I was sitting in Europe alone, like just trying to like keep my nose to the grindstone, I would lose the plot and go stir crazy, and I wasn't happy. I was just suddenly getting depressed. So if you have fun on the bike, then your legs follow, right? So and that's small things too. Like, that is, driving this van into Moab for a 2-hour detour and doing a sick ride there and camping, on Slick Rock, and then getting to the event and the activation a couple hours later. But you're happier. You start the drive in a good headspace. Like, yeah, that ride was sick. I'm cleaned up. I'm showered. I'm ready to rock. Like, I can go do this public event now. I can have a beer and not worry about the race weight, because, I did a good little hard ride. So a happy racer is a fast racer. And also, I think you got to be at 90%, and this is all life. This is try to be at 90% of the time. So, if you're always just right there, there's a few times where you can step up to that next level, which takes so much more work, right? Whether that's fitness or whatever it is in life, your work, like you can always give a little more, but that takes a lot of effort and willpower. But if you can sit right around 90% and continually perform, there's times when you can step it up, and there's also times where you can back it off. And that's, even with, let's say, diet and lifestyle, right? Or sleep, right? Like, every once in a while, just try to get 8 hours a night, but every once in a while get 10. Every once in a while, pull an all-nighter, or go out with friends way too hard, but don't do it all the time. So 90%, right. 90% of the time.
Well, those are great life lessons. But that 90% at 90% of the time, I've never heard of it. I actually like it a lot. So
thanks.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
All right. So let's transition into the last segment, which is answering some questions from the Storyteller community.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I have all the questions for the Storyteller community, because like I am just in the wormhole so deep. Like, I'm trying to get out riding before this rainstorm, and all I really want to do is like read these forums.
Well, offline, if I can help in any way, just let me know. But
I'm going to take you up on that.
For sure. Definitely. That's one of the things about Stonation and just being in part of the community, is that I just really like helping other people out. So anyways,
we can do your questions, but this was something that blew me away, because like I come I don't know the van life community well. Like there's a van life community at bike races and everybody has their own rigs and we circle them and we go adventure on bikes all day. But like in terms of the Stow Nation community, the Storyteller community, Jason's Canyon Adventure Van team, like sitting and hanging out with them for 3 days last week, like it was an eye opening of how much fun and what you guys all get doing. So I realized that I have luckily fallen into a whole other fringe, and I don't take fringe as a negative thing. That's a positive thing, right? That is dedicated and they care. And whereas I was, only looking at like the product, like I'm just like, holy cow, like there's whatever has been created around this storyteller thing is amazing, and I get to try to like dab my foot into it. So this is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, you're part of it now, so welcome.
Yeah.
But okay, so I have 3 questions, and so the first one is, where is your favorite place in the U.S. to ride dirty, mountain bike or gravel?
Oof. I mean, I gotta say right now, I've been really exploring the Pine Nut Mountain Range outside of Carson City, Nevada, just on the lower slopes of Lake Tahoe. It's this BLM mountain range that there isn't trail maps, and you can just get way out there. And you could get these vans pretty far in there and feel like, I mean, I'm talking just like shotgun shells and packs of wild Mustangs and no rules. It's way out there. So I have an event that I'm creating next spring of a race through some of it, but it's been like dead end turnaround, sandbog turnaround, just trying to find a way through them all. And it's all just like OHV land. That, and then you can't go wrong with Moab. I mean, Moab for mountain biking is insane. And just bringing the van in there, that was my big COVID pivot project. Without races, I was going for these course records on some of the most famous trails. Quite a few are in Moab. So I was parking the van there up on the mesa above Canyonlands, and waiting for the right weather, and then going out and like trying to get the white rim record time. So just the whole van life trip around Moab with mountain bikes is super fun.
Nice. And then kind of a follow-up question to that one is, any good places to boondock and ride dirty? But I think you kind of answered that already in regards to that one mountain range in Moab. But is there maybe another place that you know of?
I mean, it's everywhere. I do it on all my trips now because, one thing, this will be a bit of a tangent, but one thing that doing the van thing has really opened up for me is the possibility to pit stop adventure, right? So, for example, I can do a good hard ride at home in around Lake Tahoe, and if I got an 8-hour drive to get to some race somewhere, like I'll do 4 hours at night, just sleep on the side of the road or where I know a good trail is, hit that in the morning, and then finish up the drive and be there by midday. Instead of when you travel with an airplane, you're beholden to their logistics and you pretty much lose a whole day with, transfers and checking in and all that stuff. So by utilizing a van, I've actually been able to explore more and also be more efficient, even though the drive takes longer than the flight, like more efficient in like doing it outside of like good daylight hours, right? So I use that iOverlander app, and I'm sure there's a lot of other ones, but iOverlander has been great to kind of view boondocking spots, and then I can cross-reference that with either Trailforks is a popular mountain biking app, or gravelmap.com. And for example, like there's some killer roads like right off of I-80. And you just like, oh, I can stop there. It's like BLM 2 miles up thanks to iOverlander. And lo and behold, there's like a 20-mile, 40-mile gravel loop that like goes off of I-80 that you would never think exists. So
oh, that's awesome advice.
Yeah.
And then last question, which is kind of 2-part, is which race is your favorite, the TDF, or I'm probably going to mispronounce this, Gyro?
The Giro.
Giro. Yeah, I totally
Yeah.
butchered that
Oof.
one. And then the follow up to the second part is, and what do you miss the most about it?
So for those who don't know, the Giro is the same thing as the Tour de France, but in Italy. So the Tour de France is the biggest race in the world. It's 3 weeks long. You race every day, and it's cumulative time. There's 2 other races in the world that are like that. They're just not quite as prestigious for media and television-wise, but there is still live television. But the Giro, which is 3 weeks in Italy, and the Vuelta de España, which is the Tour of Spain. And so in my career, I did 2 Tour de France, 4 Giro d'Italia, and 2 Vuelta Españas. And in terms of country, you can't beat Italy because you're cycling through the Dolomites, which I think is the coolest mountain range on the planet. The Dolomites are insane. For me, they blow the Rockies and the Sierras out of the water. That said, so I think passion-wise, I love the Giro. The Tour was still always the big show. It was very stressful because it was the big show, a lot more dangerous. But Italian culture and the Italian lifestyle was a lot nicer for me.
Nice. Wow, I had no idea. You live an awesome life, by the way. I'm just putting it out there.
Sometimes. Yeah. I'm trying to give you Instagram life so people can like what I do, and then there's all the hard stuff too. Everyone knows that right? It's all fake. It's all fake.
Yeah. It's all good though.
Yeah.
Well, I like to end the podcast with one question that I end all podcasts with, and hopefully it's not too loaded for you. But what does it mean to be part of the Stow Nation community?
I don't know yet because I've only been a part of it for like a week. But as I said earlier, if my initial if the initial welcoming is anything to go by, it's pretty crazy and just how people talk about it and the willingness to help. I looked at like that Facebook group, and it's just like, even if some noob has a dumb question, no one's like, screw this person. It's just like, either it's the answer or, hey, check out this article, we answer that for you. And so it's just continual embracing and help of the community, which is actually reminds me a lot of like this gravel thing and why it came up. There's not this elitism, right? And I feel like you could very well fall into like, hey, these vans are between $150,000 and $200,000. Like, there's a high cost to enter, and like, we're all better than everybody else. Like, that's what you would initially think almost on the face value, and that is not the case here. Like, everyone is beyond humble from what I've seen so far. So, and that's like gravel right now, is like, that's why everyone's kind of trended away from like this elite road cycling thing, and everyone's like, we're all in this adventure together, and however you want to do it, that's sick. So I've kind of found that similar vibe here, and I think that's really important, and that's something really special that the Storyteller Nation has created.
That's awesome. Well, Pete, I appreciate your time. I know you're trying to get a sick ride in before it starts raining, so yep. I know sometimes when it comes to storms, every second counts, but I really do appreciate your time. It was great to meet you, and hopefully, I'll meet you at one of the events. So.
Yeah. I really plan on doing one of these Storyteller gatherings, or maybe if anyone out there comes to Homewood, Lake Tahoe for that one big show, it's my backyard. So hit me up and I'll give you some trail tips, some good moves.
Yeah, for sure.
Alrighty.
Stow Nation is a production of Park Media. The executive producer is Younghwa Kim. The audio engineer is
Stephen Grasso.
The marketing director is
Guillaume Golsong.
The original music and artist is done by
Jason Walsmith.
The sound designer is
Lorenzo Interiano.
And the webmaster is
Peng Shi.
Without any of these people, this podcast couldn't happen, so a big, huge thank you. And a big, huge thank you to you, the listener. If you like this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, share, and leave a 5-star review. This is Younghwa with Stow Nation, and I can't wait to share the road with you.